Welcome to the Time for a Reset podcast, the podcast where I, Paul Frampton, interview senior marketers on the big issues of the day and the thing that they want to see reset with an ever-changing landscape. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Time for a Reset. We are now just on the eve of October, at a point when there are a few more local lockdowns spinning up around the UK. And this afternoon or this evening, I'm delighted to be joined by Tony Miller, who is the marketing director of WW, previously known as Weightwatchers. He's also spent a great deal of time at Walt Disney and has had a career agency side as well. So I think that might be an interesting place to start, Tony. You've obviously got an interesting transversal kind of experience there. So maybe you could just tell us about why you took that journey from the CRM digital side of agencies to clients and what it's taught you would be maybe a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to, and great to be here on this eve with you, Paul. Always good to talk shop. So about me and my career, I think, as you said, my whole focus has always been in CRM with a real laser attention to digital and how do we unearth digital insights and build data strategies through CRM programs to increase revenue opportunities and increase longevity with consumers and cross-sell and upsell, you name it. I think, that was really where the heartland was. And I was at the birth of kind of like that move into kind of offline to online, and then how do you really make the most of email marketing and take it away from the traditional below the line kind of junk mail piece. And so from there, it grew into this whole digital transformation, and it kind of became less about the channel and more about the data. And I found that really interesting because I think just as an inquisitive person, it is, and as a marketer and as a consumer myself, it should always be about the consumer and what is going on in their head and and what channels are they interested in, where are they consuming their content, and where are they buying, and then how can you be as close to that to provide relevant and interesting content at the right time on the right channels. So I think I got to the point in my agency career where I was ready for a new challenge, and I felt like at that point moving to another agency wouldn't give me necessarily that challenge. I wanted to look brand side. I had never been on client side, in my 20 plus years of agency experience at the time. And so I started to look at what brands potentially I might want to be aligned to. And out of a handful of conversations, the opportunity at the Walt Disney Company came about, and it was almost a no-brainer. They were looking for someone to lead digital transformation for EMEA, and I had the right background, and it was an amazing brand. So why not?
Well, not a bad first brand job to have.
No, absolutely not. Not a bad first brand job to have. It was brilliant, and I think landing the role there. I was there for 5 years, and being able to really cement how they actually used data, insight, technology to their advantage across EMEA, and try to create a seamless strategy across 26 European markets. Was no mean feat, but looking back, I think we were able to establish a unified technology stack, kind of a unified strategy around how to use consumer data, a unified look and feel to kind of programs, so that there was a integrated structure to our digital marketing, but also allowed for local nuances and ideation locally, so that it didn't feel like it was cookie cutter and it was just one size fits all. It really was able to blend and bend into kind of nuances of each of the different local markets, not just from a look and feel and creative standpoint, but also from a resource standpoint in terms of what they needed to lean on the EMEA leads for versus what they could do locally based on just bandwidth and budget opportunities. So, and then from there, I felt like it was time for another challenge. I think, things were changing, as they always do, and evolve. And I feel like I had done, my course there, and was really looking to take some time off. Funny enough, this was pre-COVID. And I thought, actually, I might just take a little sidestep and decide to do a little bit of soul searching and travel and see family around the world. just
maybe a good thing you didn't decide to go down that route.
Exactly. It was in January where the seeds were being kind of planted of this, what we now know as COVID-19. So that completely stopped. And then an opportunity came to actually join WW. And the brilliant piece around WW for me was it's a CMO marketing role. So it lifted me out of a digital and data, which I've been my whole entire life in technology, and built my career up in, and actually to have a broader remit across the whole end-to-end suite of marketing. So, TV through to PR and events, as well as the core of social search, data, and technology. So it's given me an opportunity to kind of see through the lens of the entire suite of marketing and bring my skills from the data and technology side into a marketing director role, which I think is so deeply needed today.
Yeah, and I think that makes you uniquely placed for this interview, because I mean, you've touched on a lot of the topics that we talk a lot about on this podcast. So marketing driving transformation, the shift data, and being able to, I guess, understand all of those touch points and customer experience, the need to have the right tech stack and all of those things. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I think the modern marketeer feels like it's someone very similar to you that's come through that kind of background. So is there something that you really feel passionate about hitting reset on in marketing? Like, you've been in it for 20 plus years, you've been brand side and agency side. What's the frustration or the thing that you'd like to change most?
Oh, where do I start? No, I shouldn't say that, because I love it dearly, and I think the frustration is what keeps me going and keeps me passionate about it. I think a handful of things come to mind. I think the one thing that kind of bubbles to the top is really this whole trying to break down silos. I think there are so many individual, especially in organizational culture, there's so many silos of different departments working ultimately for the same goal, but not with each other. And I would love to kind of ensure we kind of press reset on that and break those down and figure out ways that we can work better and more cross-functionally. I think I'm thinking, and I think WW is a good example of this. From the time I've only been there, 5 or 6 months, but from what I can see, it's a team where we actually kind of stretch boundaries, because we know from a consumer experience, it doesn't just sit with marketing. It sits in consumer experience, it sits in customer service, it sits in operations, it sits in marketing. And I can't be the only department that runs how a consumer thinks and feels and what's going to be the best output for them. I think it needs to be a collective of brains from that end-to-end stream. So I would love to kind of break down the silos and really kind of open it up to kind of ensure that there's cross-collaboration, true cross-collaboration, I think, and being able to kind of let go of some of the preciousness that we actually hold on to of an idea, or where ideas can come from, because I'm a firm believer that actually ideas can come from anyone and anywhere. Marketing needs to kind of then take that seed and shape it and, road test it against data and insight and focus groups and whatever you have to kind of validate. But I think it's not at the detriment of actually allowing for ideas to come from other parts of the organization.
Yeah. And to be owned by everyone. No, I think that's a great point, Tony. But saying it and doing it are probably slightly different things, aren't they? I mean, what like when you think about trying to build that cross-functional collaboration and like to actually get everyone engaged across the multiple departments, like how do you personally do that? Because I think different organizations have different ways of approaching it, but in general, I think the point you've raised around silos still seems to be the case in most organizations, that you've got brand performance marketing often e-commerce, and then ops, IT. So how do you try and you're obviously fairly new into a role, so I guess you're trying to learn a new business and build relationships at the same time and find a new marketing model. So how are you approaching building that world that you aspire to?
And doing that all over Zoom without actually seeing anybody. Because I started right as lockdown began. So it's been interesting, to say the least. I think how I do that, I think a lot of it comes down to personality and openness, I think. Because I feel like, that I don't believe in hierarchies in terms of like this whole back to the idea can come from anywhere. And I feel like I try to kind of celebrate and collaborate as much as I can and be encouraging to my team to kind of be open to other thinking and bring people in and listen to what other people in departments have to say. I think a good example is, some of the ways that we run meetings is, I'm thinking of our operations and our marketing team. There is such a blur in terms of member retention, because I think, member retention does, there's a firm need for that to be in marketing and building the programs that are going to keep people longer and potentially upsell and cross-sell them. But there is a hand of operations, because they own a relationship with the consumer that I don't have. They understand, how well the programs are performing in terms of like what they bought into, from a WW perspective. The content of those programs are run by our ops team. Customer service has an end relationship with consumers that call up for whatever reason, but not understanding something through to wanting to kind of cancel. So they have a view on where the customer cycle should sit and ideas and kind of to save people. So I try to foster collaboration across the board. And when you're thinking about roles and responsibilities and having people in teams and meetings, making sure you've got representatives from the business that will be able to have an opinion and own an action to take forward.
Great. Yeah, makes total sense. And is like the data and the analytics helpful to rally people together and use it as a unifier, or does it sometimes create kind of friction and challenges, because obviously data and analytics can point fingers sometimes, can't it, and suggest that there's a problem in some part of the funnel or some part of the process. So you're obviously a big advocate of data and analytics to make decisions, so I'm just interested in how that plays a role in those kind of collaborative conversations.
Yeah, and 100% it plays a role, and I think it is my role, one of my roles to kind of encourage that aspect and people to kind of just accept it. And I think and almost kind of like not feel bad about if something has been pointed out as wrong, because I think the best way we're going to learn and grow is to understand failure and to actually not be afraid to fail, but to fail gracefully and learn from it and build a better program off the back of it. And I think we're so conditioned to kind of celebrate success, and this worked and this worked and this is why this worked and we'll do more of that. But it's like, actually, that's great, keep doing that, but I want to understand what didn't work and why it didn't work, and not point fingers at people, but use that to build a better business and a better program to then make those successes actually even be more successful. So I think data and analytics, back to your point, it plays a crucial part in those decisions. And I feel like I'm definitely a proponent of listening to data and insight to inform creative and strategy. And I feel like I exude that, and others I think are seeing kind of the benefit from that and trying to kind of not use it as a stick and a rod to kind of call people out, I guess.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, ultimately, I guess it's a leadership thing, isn't it? It's how you use the data and how you communicate around the data, isn't it?
It is, and it's an interesting, I think, conversation, because I think there's a lot of people, or maybe not a lot. I mean, there are other people, and I've heard arguments and can see into that where it's like, is data actually eroding creativity? And I sometimes I may sit on the fence on this, but I do think data and insight inform creativity, but not at the detriment to kind of stop creative ideas. I think it can kind of help foster ideas. I think it's when we use it as just a this is what the data says, so therefore we have to do this. I think the data, we have to be like, this is what the data says, and this is where the insight is leading. So what then does that open up from an idea to solution?
I really like that. I think that's a really nice way of articulating it. And from Disney and from WW for the period of time you've been there, would you say in the 5+ years you've been brand side, would you say marketing's becoming more important to businesses, or is it slipping down in terms of importance? Because we see chief strategy officers, we see chief transformation, chief digital officers in lots of organizations, and sometimes there's a marketer in those roles, but quite often there isn't. Would you say marketing is more important or less important in the orgs you're working in?
I would say it's more important in the orgs I'm working in. And I think the shape of what marketing looks like is changing. So I think definitely marketing is there to grow the business. And I think we're being called to task on that and own return on investment and P&Ls and budgets, and that show what the activity that we're doing is actually having a positive ROI effect on the business. So I think it is becoming more, broadly speaking, it's becoming more important. And I think what the dynamic of the marketer's experience is what's changing. So I think we're seeing a sea change in marketing credentials, moving away from just brand and kind of in PR into actually fully understanding how digital and data and technology and media optimization is going to work to help nuance profitability and performance, so that our marketing dollars are being more effective. We're able to potentially, with the decrease in budget, spending less, but optimize what we're being able to spend to actually get a better performance. So in the 5+ years, as you say, that I've been brand side, I see marketing playing a more important role because of the need to actually do more with less.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
No, that's good, and that's what listeners want to hear, right? And like you obviously talked, and you're a big proponent of the use of data and technology to help change marketing and improve that customer experience, whether it's an existing member or acquiring a member, to do it better or more effectively or more efficiently. So could you maybe talk about how data and technology, marketing technology, ad technology is changing the way that marketing departments are being run, and the way maybe it even changes how marketers work with agencies? Because there's lots of talk about in-housing, taking more control, using data to connect end to end. But like, how do you see that whole busy space around?
Yeah, absolutely. No, exactly. In fact, it's interesting. I kind of call it right housing. So it's not just in housing, it's actually trying to find that balance of how you use agencies going forward, and the knowledge center that you need to have in-house. And I'm a firm believer of, we need people from a cost and transparency point of view. We need to own that as whatever brand you're working for. You need to understand the levels of the cost breakdown kind of in media agencies or any agencies you're using, and how and what your true money is buying in terms of audience eyeballs, etc., and where that money is going. So wastage, you need to be all over. You need to be all over the transparency of those costs and how that is being configured. And so I think the more knowledge you have of inside, and the more you own that technology, the better off you're going to be long term, because that's yours in your domain. It's your data. You're building it up. It's your audiences that you're actually building. So you can have that close to you, but open it up so your agencies can work within that system of yours versus you working within their system of many clients. I think ultimately is the holy grail. And that also depends on the size of brand and the budgets you have. Don't get me wrong, not every brand has the luxury to be able to do that. But I think that would be the holy grail, is to have that balance of the knowledge center and the direct relationships in-house, but using your agencies to help execute and buy at scale and optimize at scale. Because I think the moment you start in-housing everything, that's another cost center that you're not going to want to ultimately have on your books. I think, especially in pandemics like this, where you have to then kind of be able to figure out how to kind of save money. That's a hard thing. If everything was in-house, that's a hard thing to kind of claw back on, or to reverse.
Yeah, no, great point.
So you've got the balance of flexibility with agencies, but you've got the knowledge in-house. And I think, and it helps you change the way you work with agencies. I think, when I was at Disney, it was more about, we were on this road journey to right size or in-house, whatever you want to call it, because of that cost and transparency and that ownership and brand safety and just all of that. It wasn't changing our budgets with agencies. It was just meaning we were working with agencies differently. So I think the fear is, oh no, then the money's going to go away and there's never going to be an agency. I think actually, no, I think it's, you're able to free up thinking time and getting agencies to work on stuff and that they don't need to do anymore because you've got that covered internally.
And would you say the agency community is changing quickly enough to adapt to that reality? Because I think that reality that you painted is one that all marketeers are on a journey towards. Some are further ahead. It sounds like you guys are further down that road than some, and Disney definitely was. But not everyone is. Would you say agencies are adapting to that new model, the need to maybe be more agile and be more flexible about their cost models? Do you see that happening, or is that not going fast enough for you as a marketer?
No, I do see it happening. I think it's a hard one because I know, for being on the agency side, I know how precious it is to kind of have those numbers and the revenues kind of, to kind of for you to hit your forecast, et cetera, and your billing figures. I do see over in the last year, especially, agencies being able to understand the need for it and actually react accordingly. Not every agency, but those agencies that are the agencies that are going to win, I think. And I think and even in the pandemic, I think they're actually seeing, fast and furiously needing to be agile and fleet of foot to kind of be able to respond to new situations in that way. So yeah, I think there are agencies that are open and understand the value, and those agencies that actually help you in that journey are the ones that are going to win.
Yeah, agree.
And ultimately, I think they may even be better off as a result because they can shape their teams in a different way, and they actually may get more money because other projects may come off the back of it.
Agree. Yeah. No, it's just a need to be more flexible and go with it. And then if you build trusted relationships and deliver value, it was always thus that you did well as a service provider.
Yeah.
So it just requires a bit of belief that just because the model's changing, it doesn't mean that you're irrelevant suddenly.
No, and I think it's funny, this whole agility thing too, it can't be, we as brands have responsibility to do that in a way that's respectful too. So I think we all have to learn to be more agile and get away from our process, end-to-end process of, first draft, second draft, third draft, final approved copy, this, that, and the other. And I think that whole model's changing, but I think we also, in the world we live in, we want things quicker and demand more, but we have to do it with respect in terms of like understanding that some things still will take a process. Even in conversations with dynamic creative, et cetera, that where I'm having, there's still a process that needs to be gone through. It'll be more efficient in the long run, but you can't do things, nothing can still be done overnight. So I think we have to be mindful of that.
Tony, we've done fairly well so far of not talking too much about the pandemic, but I think it would be irresponsible not to touch on it at all. You obviously have a business that has both physical interaction with members as well as providing digital interaction. So how have things changed for you in running a marketing team and trying to kind of come in and lead a marketing team during this pandemic? It must have been quite a challenging time for you, I guess.
Absolutely. As I said, I came in on the 2nd of April, just as lockdown had started, and met my team virtually over Zoom, and came into a situation with, obviously there was marketing, not just marketing budget cuts, but budget cuts, and trying to kind of do rejig plans with 25% less budget. So interesting challenges, but I think everybody was in the same position. So I think everybody kind of understood the task at hand. And I think the great thing is everyone rolled their sleeves up and rallied accordingly and really just got into it. And, you know, the agencies we worked with were really open and agile in that aspect, and working hard and to help solutionize ways to you know, hit targets in ways that, you know, we will maybe not have thought about because of those situations. And I think as a business, though, you know, we were able to move all of our physical offerings to virtual globally within 6 days. And I think, you know, that in and of itself, is very phenomenal. And just being able to obviously be like, right, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it, and we did it. And it was a seamless transition. And you know, we had to take our members and our customers on a journey with us, because not a lot of them knew Zoom and knew, you know, how to work around it. But you know, through great conversation through our coaches and our marketing, and we were able to, you know, show them how to make it work for them and actually make a virtual experience work for people that were used to physically seeing their coaches and other members, you know, in that accountability piece.
I guess there must have been some new stories that environment has created, and how people are connecting in a slightly different way. But are there any new stories that have come out that you're able to tell in your marketing about this period?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, we've done some great UGC of members talking about how amazing the virtual communities and the virtual workshops have been to kind of get them through this process. I think, you know, as we all know, it's been a testing time for everybody on the best of days, you know, in terms of anxiety and snacking and lack of exercise and increased eating and whatever have you. But I think, you know, we've got some great stories that we've shared on social and in marketing around it's the community that got them through it, and it's and that virtual connection still provides the accountability and support that was lacking, you know, because they couldn't physically meet.
Yeah, great. I like that. So maybe as we move towards the close of the interview, Tony, I'd just love to ask you one question around what you personally kind of think that you can do more of as a marketer to drive that elevation of marketing, to drive the agenda in terms of growth and make sure it's leading at the board table. Is there something that you would love to do more of, or you're working to do more of?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes back to, I think, what I was saying earlier at the start, in terms of really understanding ROI and performance, and you know, and this whole attribution of what channels are working hard, how do we work those in the best way, how can we optimize our media dollars to actually ensure that we are constantly cross-selling as much as we can, upselling as much as we can, keeping customers longer, coming back more frequently. So I think my voice kind of in that boardroom is really to show true value of marketing and have clear KPIs that actually we're always leaning back to. So whether if it's just a brand campaign, what were the KPIs towards that brand campaign, and how can I articulate success? If it was a performance driven, what were the KPIs? How can I articulate success? And always being that voice of the customer in the room.
Excellent. Well, I think that is a great ambition that I think all marketers are always striving to. So, Tony, it's been a delight talking to you. I think you've left us with some really important messages around being respectful with the data that you have, and using it in a smart way to drive change, collaborating across silos, and also thinking about how to smartly work with your agencies and think about this right housing concept, I think is a good one. So I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Absolute pleasure. It's been great to speak with you, and always a pleasure to chat. Yeah, thank you for having me.
And hopefully someday soon you'll meet your team in the real world.
Let's hope. Here's to 2021.
Here's to 2021, indeed. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for tuning into this latest podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We'll be back again very soon, interviewing a senior marketer and understanding what they would like to reset in the marketing industry. In the meantime, if you want to check out me, you can find me on Twitter, Paul_Framp, and you can find my new business, which is a hybrid marketing consultancy helping with in-housing, digital strategy, and marketing attribution at controlvexposed.co.uk, on Twitter under CVE, or on LinkedIn under Control V Exposed. Look forward to you coming back next time and having more interesting conversations. Thank you.